and she didn't like him. And they actually clashed on a number of occasions. Nothing terribly seriously, but he had damaged and hurt North Connacht. He had encroached into the Sligo area, and she went after him and hurt him back. They didn't have an all-out war, but she didn't like him. O'Neill she respected, but she was suspicious of him because he was an Englishman, as far as she was concerned. He had been raised for a good many years he was adopted literally by Walsingham, and he had been raised at the English court. And while she knew him and they had met and talked many times, she didn't trust him because he was on both sides of the fence. She wasn't. There was no question. She never submitted. In fact, in many ways, she was the last of the true chieftains that never. I think that O'Sullivan Bear probably deserves the credit for that. I think O'Sullivan Bear and his march from the Barra Peninsula up to Leitrim and so on. But she was without doubt the last of the major chiefs. She was a bigger, more important chieftain than O'Sullivan Bear was. So that, of course, also is a legacy that the Irish treasure, that she never surrendered.
Before Kinsale, she died before Kinsale.
She died in 1603. Kinsale was in 1601, and she died. It's kind of amazing, really. She died almost the same, almost to the day, very close to Elizabeth. They both died at the same time, and what was so tragic about that, if you remember from earlier lessons, is that the Treaty of Mellifont was a great abbey, and O'Neill came in and surrendered at Mellifont, and because they were beaten and his lands was tainted and attained and given to the crown and so on. And Mountjoy, who took a surrender very ceremoniously, never told him that the Queen had died only 3-4 days prior to that, because he would never have surrendered if he had known that the Queen was actually dead. So he surrendered to a dead Queen, and of course later the O'Neills disputed that and says, well, then we didn't surrender. We surrendered in fall, and it caused rebellions later on. Says we never did surrender because it was a typical. By the way, I have to mention this. Okay, she's sorry. Elizabeth broke her word to Gráinne.
That's a surprise.
She broke her word on a number of things, and I guess she would never revoke the title that confirmed for Tibetan, but she broke her word, particularly with regard to Richard Bingham, and she allowed Richard Bingham back in again. And that was a dreadful thing because he ravaged, and he went even more berserk, and he literally destroyed Connacht. So again, unfortunately, I suppose if I'm going to give her, I'm glad I remembered to do that, because I didn't want Elizabeth coming off as being the great hero. She was a sneaky bitch. Excuse my language. She just went back on her word. Sorry. I get angry over those. But there should be some honor, especially at that level. But she just reneged on the deal because, again, she was hurting some awfully tough guys. Okay, unless there's any more questions, I'm definitely getting the signal from Margaret.
Don't you think she groomed that?
Thank you. That's for you. You must have done something. That's okay. No, go ahead.
Didn't she don't you think she kind of groomed that third kid for the church? Because I remember my mom saying you always want one kid in the military, one for the church, and one for son. I can't remember. You know what I mean? But